On a cold morning in Manhattan's Bryant Square, an 8-year-old girl with pigtails trembled as she held out a crumpled $50 bill toward a man in a black suit. He was Henry Wallace, CEO with ice-cold eyes and a past few dared to touch. "Today, be my dad, please," Callista whispered. The city noise faded away. In that moment, her request shattered the silence that had locked his heart for years. The morning air cut through Manhattan like a blade of ice, reflecting off the glass and steel towers of Midtown. Henry Wallace moved through the crowds with mechanical precision, his dark suit immaculate, his brown hair perfectly styled despite the November wind. At 36, he commanded Wallace Dynamics with the efficiency of a machine, having learned 5 years ago that emotions were luxuries he could no longer afford. Every morning, he walked through Bryant Square at exactly 7:45, a ritual that steadied him before facing another day of hostile takeovers and quarterly projections. The accident had taken everything. One drunk driver, one red light, and his wife Sarah and 4-year-old daughter Emma were gone. The therapists had called it survivor's guilt. Henry called it clarity. Love made you vulnerable. Attachment made you weak. Better to function without feeling. To succeed without sentiment. His board of directors appreciated the transformation. His profit margins had never been higher. Callista Moore watched him from behind a food cart, her pale blonde hair tied in 2 neat pigtails that her mother had fixed before the morning shift. Her oversized coat, a hand-me-down from the church donation box, hung past her knees. She clutched the $50 bill she'd been saving for 3 months, quarters and singles earned from returning bottles and helping Mrs. Chen sort newspapers at the corner store. Today was family day at PS 47, and everyone would bring their fathers. Everyone except her. She'd practiced in the mirror that morning while her mother slept, exhausted from double shifts at Vanessa's diner. "Be my dad today," she'd whispered to her reflection, trying different inflections. Confident, casual, pleading. None of them sounded right, but the man in the square looked like how she imagined fathers should look. Tall, strong, wearing the kind of suit that meant he had a real job, not like the men who hung around their apartment building in the middle of the day. Henry paused at a balloon vendor, something catching his eye. The elderly woman selling them smiled, her weathered hands steady, despite the cold. "They last a whole week if you tie them tight," she said, though he hadn't asked. He stared at a red balloon bobbing in the wind, remembering Emma's 4th birthday party, how she'd cried when her balloon had floated away. He'd promised to buy her 100 more. He never got the chance. The child appeared in his peripheral vision first, a blur of worn fabric and determination. Henry's first instinct was to sidestep, to maintain his trajectory toward the office, but something in her stance made him stop. She stood directly in his path, chin raised, green eyes steady despite the tremor in her small hands. "Here's $50, she said, extending the crumpled bills. "Be my dad today." The words hung in the air like frozen breath. Henry stepped back, his polished Oxford shoes scraping against the pavement. A taxi horn blared nearby, the sound sharp enough to slice through the moment, and for an instant he was back at the hospital, listening to the heart monitor's final, endless tone. "I don't." "What are you asking?" His voice came out rougher than intended. Callista didn't flinch. "Just for today. For family day at school. I need someone to come with me. Someone who looks like a dad." The memory hit without warning. Emma's small hand in his at her preschool's spring festival, her voice bright with pride, as she introduced him to her teachers. "This is my daddy. He's the smartest person in the whole world." He'd believed her then. Believed he could be everything she thought he was. "Where are your parents?" he managed, though the question felt hollow. "My mom works. She can't come. My dad." She shrugged. a gesture too practiced for her age. "I don't have one, but I have $50. Henry looked at the money, at this child offering her savings for something that should have been free. His board would have called this a liability. His lawyers would have drafted 15 pages of concerns. But standing there, watching her hold out those crumpled bills with such dignity, he saw Emma in every determined line of her posture. "Keep your money," he said. "What's your name?" "Callista Moore." Hope flickered across her face. "Does that mean you'll come?" Every rational thought screamed no. The risk to his reputation, his company, the impropriety of it all. But rationality had kept him functioning for 5 years. And functioning wasn't the same as living. "We need rules," he heard himself say. "I'm not your father. If anyone asks, I'm a guardian chaperone. Just for today. Just for this event." Callista nodded solemnly, then reached into her backpack and pulled out a hand-drawn badge on cardboard. "Dad. Today," written in purple crayon. "You should wear this. So everyone knows." Henry took the badge, its edges soft from handling. After a moment's hesitation, he pinned it to the inside of his coat. Hidden but present. The walk to PS 47 took 12 minutes. Callista filled the silence with careful conversation, explaining about family day, about the craft projects and the lunch, about how Gwen's father was a firefighter and Marcus's dad worked at the bank. Henry listened, noting how she never mentioned wanting him to lie, only to be present. At the school entrance, Serena Farah, Callista's teacher, recognized him immediately. "Mr. Wallace." Her surprise was evident, but quickly replaced by a warm smile. "Thank you for coming. Callista's been anxious about today." The classroom buzzed with activity. Parents helped children with paper kites, assisted with glue sticks and ribbons, took photos that would end up in scrapbooks and on refrigerators. Henry stood awkwardly at first, his hands too large for the child-sized scissors, his fingers clumsy with the delicate paper. But muscle memory kicked in. Years-old reflexes of helping Emma with her art projects. And soon he was folding paper with practiced ease. "Your dad's really good at this," Gwen whispered to Callista, her voice carrying that particular tone of elementary school envy. Callista beamed. "Yeah, he is." The word dad hit Henry like a physical blow. But he kept folding, kept his hands steady. When Callista's shoelace came undone during the playground activity, he knelt without thinking, his fingers automatically forming the bunny ears Emma had found so funny. "Thank you, Dad," Callista whispered, so quietly only he could hear. He froze for half a second, then finished the knot and stood. Lunch was in the cafeteria. Families crowded around tables, meant for smaller bodies. Callista produced a brown bag with 2 sandwiches. The paper marked, "Love, Mom, Amanda," in blue ink. Henry stared at the feminine handwriting, so different from Sarah's but carrying the same care, the same hope that a simple meal could convey love. A father at their table, Roger Brennan, leaned over with professional interest. "I hear you're in tech, Mr. Wallace." "My company's been following Wallace Dynamics' expansion." "Impressive quarter," Henry deflected, but Callista's eyes shone with pride. "My dad runs the whole company," she announced, and the words rippled through the nearby tables. A mother in designer clothes discreetly took a photo. Another typed quickly on her phone. The first sparks of a fire Henry couldn't yet see. "We're implementing a mentorship program," Henry found himself saying when Roger asked about community involvement. "And I'm personally funding the school's library renovation." He hadn't planned to say it, but Serena Farah's grateful gasp made it real. Contracts could be drawn up later. The promise had been witnessed. The afternoon activities continued, but Henry noticed more phones appearing, more whispered conversations among the parents. Callista, oblivious to the undercurrents, showed him her desk, her artwork on the walls. the reading corner where she spent recess when the other kids talked about their families. "Sometimes I come here and pretend," she admitted quietly. "Pretend my dad's just traveling for work. That he'll come back." Henry's throat tightened. "Callista, I know pretending isn't real," she continued, straightening her papers with careful precision. "But sometimes it helps." The classroom door opened abruptly. Amanda Moore stood there, still in her diner uniform, her brown hair escaping from its bun, her eyes scanning the room until they found her daughter with a stranger. The relief on her face twisted immediately into alarm, then anger. "Callista, come here. Now." Her voice carried the authority of single motherhood, of years of being the only protection her child had. Callista's face crumpled. "Mom, I can explain." "You." Amanda pointed at Henry, her hand shaking slightly. "Who are you? Why does my daughter have money out? What did she give you?" "Nothing," Henry said quickly, pulling the $50 from his pocket and pressing it into Callista's hand. "She keeps this. I didn't take anything from her." Amanda's eyes narrowed, studying him, and recognition dawned slowly. Not of his face from business magazines, but from something deeper. The memorial service. St. Catherine's. 5 years ago, Henry went still. The church had been packed with strangers, offering condolences, their faces blurring together in his grief. But one young woman had simply handed him tissues, said, "I'm sorry for your loss," and left. No platitudes. No empty promises that it would get better. Just acknowledgement of pain. "That was you," he said quietly. "My husband had just left," Amanda replied, her anger cooling into something more complex. "I was 6 months pregnant, working at a temp agency. I'd gone to pray, but there was a funeral. I saw you with your daughters." She stopped, glancing at Callista. "You knew?" Callista asked, her voice small. "I knew you saved that money," Amanda said. "I didn't know this was what you planned." Serena approached carefully, her teacher's instinct for de-escalation evident. "Mrs. Moore, Callista's had a wonderful day. She's been so happy." "Happy because I hired someone to play her father?" Amanda's voice cracked. "Because someone showed up," Henry said. The words came from somewhere deep, somewhere he'd locked away. She didn't want someone to pretend to love her. She just wanted someone to be present. I should have asked your permission. I should have thought it through. I'm sorry." Amanda studied him for a long moment, seeing the expensive suit, the perfect hair, the grief that no amount of success could hide. "Callista, get your things. We're going home." Henry pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. "My driver can take you. Please." As an apology. "We take the subway," Amanda said firmly. "We don't need." "Mom," Callista interrupted softly. "Please don't be mad at him. Or me. I just once. I wanted to know what it felt like." The words hung in the air, heavy with a child's simple truth. Amanda's shoulders sagged slightly. She took the card Henry offered, glanced at it, then tucked it away. "Thank you for being kind to her," she said quietly. "But this can't happen again." They left, Callista looking back once, her eyes holding a mixture of gratitude and goodbye. Henry stood in the empty classroom, the paper kite they'd made together still on the desk, feeling the weight of his empty arms. By evening, the photo was everywhere. Tech CEO plays dad for hire. The image showed Henry kneeling, tying Callista's shoe, the hand-drawn badge partially visible inside his coat. Someone had enhanced it, made the childish letters clear. The story spread like wildfire. Each iteration, adding speculation, judgment, fuel to the burning narrative. Clinton Graves, CEO of Graves Systems and Henry's chief competitor, released a statement within hours. It's deeply concerning when industry leaders exploit children for publicity stunts. The tech community must hold itself to higher standards. Wallace Dynamics' emergency board meeting convened at 9 that evening. The conference room felt like a tribunal, 12 faces illuminated by tablets showing plummeting stock prices and trending hashtags. Explain. William Cho, chairman of the board, demanded. His usually paternal demeanor had hardened into corporate steel. Henry stood at the head of the table, feeling strangely calm. A child asked me to attend her school event. I agreed. A child you didn't know. Alexandra Reed, the CFO, clarified. A child who allegedly offered you money, which I didn't take. The optics, Vivian Hale, head of PR, began. The optics are terrible, Henry agreed. They're also irrelevant. A little girl wanted someone to show up for her. I showed up. At what cost? Alexandra pulled up projections. We're looking at a 15% drop by market open. Investor confidence is shaken. Clinton's already positioning this as evidence of your emotional instability. William leaned back, studying Henry with an expression that mixed disappointment with concern. Is that what this is? Emotional instability? Are you trying to replace? Don't. Henry's voice cut through the room. Don't mention my daughter in this context. Don't make this about her. But it is, isn't it? William's voice gentled slightly. Henry, we've given you space to grieve. But if that grief is affecting your judgment, my judgment is fine. Is it? You exposed yourself and this company to massive liability. What if the mother sues? What if the child was hurt while in your care? What if a child grows up thinking no one cares enough to show up? Henry interrupted. What if we're so focused on liability that we forget humanity? The room fell silent. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan glittered, indifferent to the drama playing out in the tower. Vivian broke the quiet. We need a statement. Tonight. We can frame this as a misunderstanding. A charitable gesture taken out of context. No. Henry's response was immediate. No spinning. No reframing. Tomorrow morning, I'll hold a press conference. I'll tell the truth. The truth will bury you, Alexandra warned. Then I'll be buried honestly. That night, Henry sat in his empty penthouse, surrounded by the artifacts of success. Awards, photographs with world leaders, magazine covers proclaiming him the future of technology. In his bedroom safe, behind the stock certificates and patents, sat a smaller box. Emma's drawings, Sarah's wedding ring, the hospital bracelet from the day Emma was born. He pulled out a crayon drawing of their family, 3 figures holding hands under a rainbow. Emma had signed it with a backwards E. Love Emma, it read. Best daddy ever. Across the city, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, Amanda Moore sat on her daughter's bed, stroking Callista's hair as she pretended to sleep. I know you're awake, baby, Amanda whispered. Callista's eyes opened, tears already pooling. I ruined everything, didn't I? Oh, honey, no. You didn't ruin anything. But on TV, they're saying, since when do we care what they say on TV? Amanda pulled her daughter closer. You want to know what I think? I think you're the bravest person I know. But next time you want to hire someone, maybe we discuss it first? A small smile broke through Callista's tears. He was nice, Mom. He tied my shoes just right. Not too tight like you do sometimes. Amanda laughed despite herself. My shoe-tying skills are being critiqued now? They sat quietly for a moment. Then Amanda noticed something on the nightstand. An envelope she hadn't seen before. Inside was a handwritten note and a document. I apologize for overstepping today, the note read. Your daughter's kindness reminded me that showing up is sometimes all we can do for each other. The attached, is information about a full scholarship program for PS-47 students. Callista has already been approved. This isn't charity or guilt. It's recognition of a young person who understands the value of human connection. She didn't need to buy a father today. She already has a remarkable mother. H. Wallace. Amanda read it twice, then looked at the scholarship details. Full tuition through college, no strings attached, already funded and irrevocable. "Mom," Callista asked, "are you crying?" "No, baby, just thinking." The next morning, Wallace Dynamics' lobby filled with reporters. The press conference was scheduled for 10, but by 9:30, every major outlet had sent their best attack dogs. Clinton Graves had ensured maximum coverage, feeding quotes about corporate responsibility and child welfare to any microphone that would listen. Henry entered without notes, without slides, without the armor of prepared statements. He stood at the podium, looked at the sea of cameras, and spoke. "Yesterday, an 8-year-old girl asked me to attend her school's family day. She offered me $50, which was everything she had saved. I didn't take her money. I did attend the event." The questions erupted immediately, but Henry raised his hand. "Let me finish. 5 years ago, I lost my wife and daughter in an accident. Since then, I've functioned. I've succeeded. I've built Wallace Dynamics into what analysts call a powerhouse, but I haven't lived. Yesterday, for a few hours, a brave little girl reminded me what it felt like to show up for someone. Not as a CEO, not as a strategic decision, but as a human being." Mr. Wallace, Dante Brooks from Financial Weekly called out. Clinton Graves suggests this was a calculated PR move, especially the library donation announced at the school. "Mr. Graves is welcome to his opinion," Henry replied. "The library donation stands because PS-47 needs books more than I need to win a press cycle. But the timing was a child needing someone to tie her shoes and help her make a kite. If that coincides with suspicious timing, then we're so cynical that we can't recognize simple human kindness anymore." "What about the mother?" another reporter shouted. "Amanda Moore. Our research shows she was once an intern at Wallace Dynamics." Henry paused. This was new information to him. "I wasn't aware of that." Vivian quickly checked her tablet, her face paling as she found the records. She showed Henry the screen. "Amanda Moore. AI ethics intern. Brilliant reviews. Program terminated due to budget cuts. Left when 6 months pregnant." "I've just learned," Henry said slowly, "that Amanda Moore was indeed an intern here, in a program we cut 5 years ago. A program I cut, focused on operational efficiency over human potential." He looked directly at the cameras. "It seems I need to apologize for more than yesterday." The room buzzed with this new angle, but Serena Farah stood up in the back row. No one had expected a public school teacher at a corporate press conference. "I'm Callista's teacher," she said, her voice carrying surprising authority. "I watched Mr. Wallace yesterday. I saw him help not just Callista, but several children with their projects. I saw him listen, really listen, when they talked about their dreams. If this was performance, it was the kindest performance I've witnessed. The children didn't see a CEO. They saw someone who cared." "You're saying you support his actions?" Dante pressed. "I'm saying that in 20 years of teaching, I've seen countless children whose parents are too busy to show up. Yesterday, someone showed up. The fact that we're treating this as scandalous says more about us than about Mr. Wallace." Clinton Graves' team had prepared for corporate defense, not character witnesses. The narrative shifted, fractured, reformed. That afternoon, Elias Flynn, a young investigative journalist, published his findings. The leak had come from a PR firm with direct ties to Graves Systems. The digital trail was clear, the ethics violation blatant. Within hours, Clinton's own board called an emergency meeting. Henry didn't comment on the revelation. Instead, he found himself standing outside Vanessa's diner in Queens, watching through the window as Amanda served coffee, her movements efficient, her smile genuine despite the exhaustion evident in her shoulders. He entered quietly, taking a booth in her section. "You shouldn't be here," she said, pouring coffee without being asked. "I know, but I needed to apologize properly. And to ask you something." Amanda waited, her expression guarded. "The internship you had here, Vivian pulled your file. You were brilliant. Your thesis on ethical AI implementation was 5 years ahead of its time. That was a long time ago. It doesn't have to be." Henry pulled out a folder. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Community Innovation. Flexible hours, full benefits, working on projects that matter. The scholarship program for PS47 is just the beginning." Amanda set down the coffee pot. "You can't be serious. I cut that program to save money. It was the wrong choice. I'm trying to make better choices now. Because of yesterday? Because of Callista? Because she reminded me that showing up is just the first step. The real work is staying." Amanda looked at the folder, then at Henry. "I can't be bought. Neither can my daughter's affection. I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm trying to build something. A program that ensures no talented person gets pushed out because of life circumstances. You'd be perfect to lead it, not because of yesterday, but because of who you are. And if I say no, then you say no. The scholarship stands. The library funding stands. This offer stands whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready." Amanda picked up the folder, scanned its contents. The salary was significant, but not absurd. The structure was thoughtful, clearly designed by someone who understood the challenges of single parenthood. The mission statement talked about second chances and systemic change. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "That's all I can ask." As Henry stood to leave, Callista emerged from the kitchen doorway where she'd been listening. "Mr. Wallace?" she called out. He turned, and she ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist in a fierce hug. "Thank you for showing up." Henry knelt to her level, remembering another little girl, another hug, another lifetime. "Thank you for asking me to. Will I see you again?" Henry glanced at Amanda, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "I'll be at your winter concert." "If that's okay," Callista beamed. "I'm playing the triangle. Then I wouldn't miss it." A year later, the Wallace Dynamics Annual Report featured an unusual addition. Alongside the profit margins and market expansions was a photo from the dedication of the PS47 Science Library. Callista stood at the ribbon, giant scissors in her hands, Henry and Amanda on either side. The plaque read, "For kids who need someone to show up." Amanda had taken the position, transforming it into something beyond Henry's original vision. The Community Innovation Program had partnered with 12 schools, providing not just funding but mentorship, internships, and pathways for students and parents alike. The boardroom that had once questioned Henry's judgment now praised the positive press and community goodwill. But the real change was quieter, smaller, measured in moments rather than metrics. Sunday dinners at Amanda's apartment, where Henry learned to make Callista's favorite mac and cheese. Morning walks to school, 3 sets of footsteps instead of 1. The winter concert where Henry sat front row, recording Callista's triangle solo on his phone, his eyes bright with pride. The evening, Amanda found Henry in Callista's room, helping with homework, and realized she'd stopped thinking of him as a guest. The morning, Callista made breakfast in bed for Mother's Day and insisted Henry help deliver it, calling them my family to Amanda's sleepy surprise. The conversation, quiet and careful, where Henry asked Amanda if he could be more than just someone who showed up. "I'm not asking you to replace anything," he said, sitting on the same couch where Callista had practiced her request 2 years earlier. "I'm asking if we could build something new, Amanda looked at the man who'd entered their lives through such an unusual door. The grief was still there in his eyes, would always be there, but it no longer froze him. He'd learned to carry it while still moving forward. "Callista already thinks of you as her dad," Amanda said softly. "I'm asking what you think." Amanda smiled, remembering the frightened, angry woman who'd stormed into that classroom. "I think showing up was just the beginning. And staying? That's the real work." Henry pulled out a small box, but before he could open it, Callista burst through the door, home from her friend's house early. "Are you proposing?" she shrieked, bouncing with excitement. "I'm trying to." Henry laughed. "Mom, say yes." "Say yes." Amanda looked between them, these two people who'd become her world. "How about you ask me properly first?" Henry got on one knee, his expression serious, despite Callista's delighted giggling. "Amanda Moore, you and Callista saved me from a life of just functioning. Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing up for both of you?" "Say yes," Callista stage whispered. Amanda knelt too, so they were all level, a triangle of connection. "Yes. But I have a condition." "Anything." She pulled out the old cardboard badge, DAD. "Today, faded, but intact. We frame this to remember that everything started with today. And now it's every day," Callista added, throwing her arms around both of them. The wedding was small, held in Bryant Square where it all began. Serena Farah officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. William Cho walked Amanda down the aisle, having become an unexpected grandfather figure to Callista. Even Alexandra Reed cried, though she blamed it on allergies. Vivian Hale made sure no press attended. This one day belonging only to them. In his vows, Henry said, "You asked me to be your dad today. Now, I'm asking to be your dad forever." Callista, standing as maid of honor, whispered loudly, "Say yes." The reception was at Vanessa's diner. Closed for the evening, filled with teachers from PS 47, employees from Wallace Dynamics, and the unlikely family they'd all become. The wedding cake, baked by Amanda's fellow waitresses, featured a sugar sculpture of the science library. Clinton Graves sent a congratulatory fruit basket. It was donated to the food bank. As the evening wound down, Henry found himself on the diner's small dance floor with Callista standing on his feet, swaying to an old song. "Are you happy?" she asked. Henry thought of Emma, who would have loved Callista, of Sarah, who would have understood Amanda. The grief would never fully leave, but it had transformed into something bearable, something that made the joy possible rather than preventing it. "I'm happy," he said. "Good," Callista replied. "Because I have something to tell you." "What's that?" She pulled him down to whisper in his ear. "Mom's pregnant. She doesn't know I know. But I saw the test in the bathroom." Henry's eyes widened, finding Amanda across the room. She was laughing with Vivian, her hand unconsciously resting on her stomach. "Are you okay?" Callista asked, suddenly worried. Henry lifted her up, spinning her around. "I'm more than okay." Later that night, after the guests had gone and Callista was asleep, Amanda and Henry stood in the doorway of what would become the nursery. "I was going to tell you tomorrow," Amanda said. "Callista beat you to it. That child cannot keep a secret." Henry pulled her close. She kept the biggest one. She never told anyone how scared she was that morning, asking a stranger to be her dad. "And you never told anyone how scared you were to say yes." They stood quietly, two people who'd found each other through the honest request of a child, who'd built a family from scratch, who'd learned that showing up was just the first step in a lifetime of staying. On the mantel, the framed badge caught the moonlight. "Dad, today." But in the nursery, a new sign waited. "Baby, tomorrow." And in Callista's room, she slept peacefully, no longer needing to pretend her father was just traveling. He was home, where he belonged, where they all belonged, in the family that $50 couldn't buy but courage had built. The city hummed beyond their windows, indifferent and eternal. But inside the apartment, 3 hearts beat in rhythm, soon to be 4. A symphony of connection that had begun with 5 simple words. Here's $50. Be my dad today. The request that broke a CEO's silence had built something far more valuable than any merger or acquisition. It had built a home.